Beloved, listen closely. There comes a moment in every believer's life when striving must end and believing must begin. For too long, many have reached out, stretched out, pushed, pulled, begged, pleaded, trying to be healed, trying to feel healed, trying to see healing, yet the breakthrough seems far away. But here is the shocking revelation. You are not trying to get something God is withholding. You are learning to walk in something God has already given. Stop striving, start believing. This is the moment where the shift happens inside you, the moment when you realize that all your effort, all your trying, all your pushing has not been the key. Many people spend years doing everything they can to get what God has already made available. They stretch their faith, they repeat prayers, they beg for breakthrough, and still feel as though nothing is changing. But the truth is simple. You cannot receive through striving what is already yours through believing. Striving works in the natural realm, where you try harder to gain more. But in the spiritual realm, trying harder doesn't open doors, trusting deeper does. There comes a point where you must recognize that continually trying to be healed, trying to be whole, trying to get God's attention, actually blinds you to the reality that His attention has never left you. The problem is not that God is slow, it's that we have been conditioned to think that spiritual things work like natural things. In the natural, you labor first and receive later. In the spirit, you receive first and then walk it out. This is the difference between striving and believing. Striving says, I need to do more so God will respond. Believing says, God has already acted. I simply align with it. When you strive, you live as though God's promise is distant, uncertain, or locked behind some spiritual door you must force open. But believing brings you into rest, because rest is the evidence of faith. Rest does not mean inactivity, it means inner quietness, freedom from the anxious need to make something happen. When you are in rest, your heart is not tugged in 1,000 directions, your mind is not filled with fear. Your emotions are not constantly shifting based on what you see around you. Rest means you are convinced, persuaded, settled. You must understand that trying is rooted in doubt, but believing is rooted in identity. When you try to be healed, you are acting from the position of one who is lacking, someone who must earn or convince God to move. But when you believe, you stand as one who already has what God promised. You are not attempting to achieve. You are awakening to what is already true in the spiritual realm. You are not moving from sickness to health, you are moving from ignorance to revelation. The distance is not physical, it's mental and spiritual. This is why striving exhausts you, because you are fighting for something you believe you do not possess. You are battling for what you think is far away. But believing energizes you because it anchors you in truth. It shifts your focus from what you feel to what is established. It lifts your eyes from your weakness to His strength. When you believe, you stop begging God as though He is reluctant. You stop pleading with heaven as though heaven is withholding. You begin to realize that faith does not push, faith rests. Faith does not try, faith knows. Faith does not strain, faith stands. The greatest breakthroughs come not when you finally try hard enough, but when you finally surrender trying and embrace believing. When you stop chasing and start receiving. When you stop asking, when will it happen? And start declaring, it is done. The moment your heart shifts from effort to trust, from striving to confidence, something changes inside you. Peace comes, clarity comes, strength comes. And from that place of rest, manifestation begins to unfold. Stop striving. Start believing. That is where transformation begins. The work is already finished. This is the truth that changes everything when you allow it to sink deep into your spirit. Most people live as though God is still deciding their destiny, still debating their future, still weighing whether they qualify for blessing or breakthrough. They pray as though they must convince Him. They cry out as though He is reluctant. They wait as though He has not yet moved. But the spiritual reality is entirely different. What God has provided, He has provided fully. What He has completed eternally. The struggle is not about getting God to act. It is about awakening to what He has already done. When you understand that the work is finished, you stop praying from desperation and start praying from revelation. You stop speaking from fear and begin speaking from truth. You stop reaching for something far away and start walking in something already placed within you. There is a vast difference between trying to receive and living from what is already yours. One creates frustration, the other produces confidence. One makes you feel like you are constantly behind, the other empowers you to step forward with boldness. Many believers spend years asking God for things that have already been given. They plead for peace, even though peace has been deposited. They beg for strength, even though strength has been supplied. They search for hope, even though hope is already planted within them. It is not that God is withholding anything, it is that His people are often unaware of what has already been finished on their behalf. When you lack awareness, you live as though the gift has not been given. But when your understanding opens, you stop striving to obtain what has already been completed. The finished work means that your position is secure. It means nothing is missing from God's side. It means heaven is not scrambling to fix something that was overlooked. It means there is no additional sacrifice required, no further action needed to earn His help, no extra performance necessary to qualify for His goodness. You are not waiting on God to complete anything. He is waiting on you to recognize what is already available. This revelation lifts the burden from your shoulders and places the truth where it belongs, in your heart. When you live from the understanding that the work is finished, your entire perspective changes. You no longer measure your future by your present feelings. You no longer allow your circumstances to dictate your beliefs. You no longer let doubt whisper lies that God is far away or slow to respond. Instead, you begin to anchor your mind in spiritual truth rather than physical evidence. The natural world may show delay, but the spiritual world shows completion. The natural may show progress, but the spiritual shows fullness. The natural may show imperfection, but the spiritual shows finality. This is why you must learn to speak from completion, not from need. Your words are not attempts to create something new. They are declarations of what is already true. When you declare truth, you align your mind with the finished work. When you align your mind, you shift your emotions. When your emotions shift, your decisions change. And when your decisions change, your life begins to manifest what has always been spiritually settled. Living from the finished work does not mean pretending nothing is wrong. It means acknowledging that truth is greater than appearance. It means you respond to challenges from a place of confidence rather than fear. It means you are not fighting for victory. You are standing in victory. You are not trying to get God to move. You are moving with what God has already done. The more you embrace this, the lighter you feel. The more you meditate on it, the stronger you become. The more you stand on it, the clearer your path becomes. Everything changes when you realize nothing is missing. The work is finished, and your journey is to walk in the light of that truth, identity before experience. That is the spiritual order most people never recognize. They wait for change before they believe change is possible. They wait to feel different before they accept what God has spoken. They wait for the evidence before they accept the truth. But the kingdom does not work that way. In the natural world, you become something after you see it. In the spiritual world, you see something after you become it. Identity produces experience, not the other way around. Until you know who you are, you will always misinterpret what is happening around you. Most people struggle because they still see themselves as someone trying to reach a place, trying to earn a blessing, trying to win God's approval, trying to qualify for breakthrough. They pray from insecurity instead of authority. They speak from fear instead of identity. They act like spiritual beggars instead of spiritual sons and daughters. But the moment you understand who you are, everything shifts. Identity stabilizes you. Identity strengthens you. Identity determines your reactions, your decisions, your expectations, your confidence. What you believe about yourself determines what you experience in your life. If you see yourself as weak, you will respond to every challenge as though it is too big. If you see yourself as unworthy, you will shrink back from opportunities meant for you. If you see yourself as incomplete, you will live as though God has not yet given you what you need. But when you recognize that you are already equipped, already approved, already accepted, already redeemed, you stop approaching life as someone trying to become and start walking as someone who already is. Identity is not shaped by circumstances, it is shaped by truth. Circumstances change, feelings shift, emotions rise and fall, but truth remains constant. When you root your identity in truth, the storms around you lose power. You may feel pressure, but you will not break. You may feel shaken, but you will not collapse. You may face battles, but you will not live defeated. You respond differently because you are rooted differently. This is why spiritual development begins with recognition, not effort. You cannot live out what you do not know you carry. You cannot manifest what you do not believe belongs to you. You cannot walk in authority if you still think you are powerless. Many people keep asking for strength that is already within them. They keep praying for peace that has already been established. They keep searching for worth when they already possess it. Their experience is small because their understanding is small, not because their potential is small. Your internal picture must change before your external reality does. If you see yourself as someone still waiting for healing, your words and your actions will match that picture. If you see yourself as someone trying to get free, you will live like a prisoner seeking escape. But when you see yourself as someone already made new, already strengthened, already empowered, your life begins to align with that truth. Your body may not have caught up yet. Your emotions may not have caught up yet. Your circumstances may not have caught up yet. But your identity stands firm. And identity always pulls your experience into alignment over time. This is why the greatest shift is not what happens to you, it is what happens in you. When you change your inner agreement, you change your outer world. When you accept your true identity, confidence rises. When you believe you are who God says you are, fear loses its grip. When you stop seeing yourself as broken and start seeing yourself as whole in Him, you begin walking with clarity and boldness. Identity is your foundation. Experience is your expression. When you embrace who you truly are, you will eventually experience what aligns with that truth. Everything begins on the inside. You become it internally before you see it externally. Identity before experience, that is the spiritual order that transforms your entire life. Your words shape your reality. Many people underestimate the power of the tongue, not realizing that every sentence they speak is either building their future or limiting it. Words are not just sounds, they are seeds. They take root in the heart, they form images in the mind, and eventually they shape the atmosphere around your life. Long before your experiences change, your language must change. Long before transformation shows up on the outside, it begins with what you declare on the inside. Every word you release is a declaration of what you believe, whether you realize it or not. Some speak from fear without even noticing it. They say things like, "I don't think this will ever change," or "I can see things getting better," or "maybe this just isn't for me." They don't intend to speak defeat, but their words are aligned with doubt instead of truth. And because the tongue is creative, those words take on a life of their own. A fearful confession strengthens fear. A negative confession strengthens discouragement. A hopeless confession strengthens the chains that already surround the mind. Your words will always amplify what you truly expect. But the moment your speech begins to align with truth, everything shifts. Words spoken from faith carry authority. Words spoken from confidence carry weight. Words spoken from revelation carry creative power. When you say, "I am growing stronger every day," you are not pretending, you are giving your mind a new script to follow. When you say, "I refuse to fear what God has already conquered," you are not denying reality. You are choosing which reality to agree with. When you say, "I am walking into what has already been provided for me," you are not wishing, you are stepping into alignment. Your words are meant to match what God has spoken, not what your circumstances show. If you only speak based on what you see, you will remain trapped by what you see. But when you speak based on truth, you begin to rise above every limitation around you. The tongue is the steering wheel of your life. If you keep pointing it toward fear, you will travel toward fear. If you point it toward hope, you will begin moving toward hope. If you point it toward victory, you will eventually step into victory. Not because words magically fix everything, but because they shift your inner expectation, and your inner expectation shapes your outer experience. Every great breakthrough begins with a new declaration. Think of how often a person's life is changed by one simple but powerful sentence. I refuse to stay the same. I will not give up. This situation will not define me. These statements ignite courage. They awaken strength. They move you from passively enduring life to actively shaping it. When you speak faith, your heart begins to believe what your mouth is saying. And when your heart believes something deeply enough, your decisions, habits, and actions begin to align with that belief. This is why you must guard your mouth, not out of fear, but out of wisdom. Every careless word creates a path you may not want to walk. Every fearful statement builds a wall you may later struggle to break. But every intentional word of faith paves the way for transformation. When you shift your confession, you shift your direction. Your words are not empty, they are containers. They are carrying either life or limitation. They are building your future or echoing your past. Speak what aligns with truth, not with fear. Speak what aligns with who you are becoming, not with who you used to be. Speak what lifts your spirit, not what weakens it. Speak from faith, not from frustration. When your words rise, your life rises with them. Your mouth is the doorway through which a new reality enters. Change your confession, and you will change your world. Faith operates from rest, not struggle. This is one of the most freeing truths you will ever embrace, because it destroys the idea that you must exhaust yourself to prove anything to God. Many people wear themselves out trying to show they have enough faith, trying to feel spiritual enough, trying to act strong enough. They measure their relationship with God by how stressed, strained, or desperate they feel. But true faith does not grow in the soil of anxiety. True faith grows in the soil of rest, inner quietness, confidence, assurance, and trust. Rest is not laziness. Rest is alignment. Rest is not inactivity. Rest is certainty. Rest is the posture of someone who knows the outcome before the evidence appears. Struggle, on the other hand, is the posture of someone who believes everything depends on them. When you struggle, you think you must make things happen. You think you must earn what has already been promised. You think you must convince God to work on your behalf. You begin to act like you are alone in your battle, like the weight of change rests entirely on your shoulders. And that burden becomes too heavy to carry. Struggle drains your joy, wears down your strength, and makes you feel like you're never doing enough. It keeps you busy but not productive. It keeps you tired but not transformed. Rest is different. Rest says, I will stand in what God has spoken. I will lean on what He has finished. I will rely on who He is, not on my own ability. Rest shifts your focus from what you can control to what God has already established. When you step into rest, fear loses its grip, because rest and fear cannot occupy the same space. When your heart is at rest, your mind becomes clear. When your mind is clear, your decisions become wise. When your decisions become wise, your life moves forward. Everything begins with rest. Faith is an inner posture long before it becomes an action. You can speak faith-filled words while your heart is still striving, or you can whisper a quiet declaration from a place of deep rest, and that whisper carries more power than 1,000 anxious speeches. Faith is not loudness. Faith is certainty. Faith is not performing the right motions. Faith is knowing the right truth. The moment you rest in what God has already done, you step out of the endless cycle of trying to earn what has already been provided. Rest does not mean you ignore challenges. It means you face challenges with confidence instead of panic. Rest does not mean you pretend everything is perfect. It means you respond from stability instead of fear. Rest does not mean the absence of movement. It means the absence of inner torment. You move, you speak, you act, but you do all of it from a place of settled assurance rather than frantic desperation. When your heart is at rest, your faith becomes effective. When your faith becomes effective, your life begins to shift. Breakthrough unfolds more naturally when you are aligned with truth instead of fighting from insecurity. Many people experience delay not because God is withholding anything, but because their hearts are too cluttered with worry to receive. Rest clears the clutter. Rest opens the door. Rest creates space for faith to work without interference. You step into rest when you choose to trust more than you fear, to believe more than you doubt, to lean on what is finished, more than what you feel. Rest is a decision before it is a feeling. You may not feel peaceful at first, but as you keep returning your mind to truth, that peace begins to grow. As peace grows, faith rises. As faith rises, manifestation begins. You were never meant to live in constant struggle. Faith was always designed to operate from rest. When you let go of the striving and lean into trust, everything changes. Your heart settles, your mind strengthens, and your spirit becomes unshakable. Rest is not the absence of faith, it is the birthplace of faith. Manifestation begins inside long before it ever shows up outside. Most people wait for external change before they allow themselves to believe anything is happening. They watch their circumstances, they monitor their feelings, they measure their progress through what they can see. But the spiritual life does not start at the surface. It begins at the core, deep within the heart, the mind, and the inner agreement you carry. Nothing on the outside can truly shift until something on the inside rises, awakens, and aligns with truth. Every transformation you admire, every person you see walking in strength, confidence, clarity, and purpose, began their journey within. At some point, they made an inward decision. They embraced a new belief. They let go of an old lie. They changed their internal picture, and that new picture eventually shaped their external reality. This is why inner agreement matters so much. You can speak the right words, pray the right prayers, and try to act like everything is fine, but if your inner world is still filled with fear, doubt, or confusion, the outer shift will be slow. The heart must move first, the life will follow. Manifestation is not magic, it's alignment. When your thoughts align with truth, you think differently. When your beliefs align with truth, you expect differently. When your inner identity aligns with truth, you carry yourself differently. And those changes, small at first, begin shaping what you attract, how you respond, and the opportunities that come your way. People often wonder why change feels slow, but transformation rarely begins with a loud moment. It begins quietly. One new thought, one new confession, one new realization, one new agreement. Inside you, there is a blueprint for who you are meant to be. But if your heart is filled with images of defeat, fear, or lack, your outer life will mirror that blueprint. Inner pictures are powerful. If you see yourself as weak, you will hesitate. If you see yourself as broken, you will settle. If you see yourself as someone who never wins, you will stop expecting breakthrough. But when your inner image shifts, even before anything around you changes, you begin to walk differently. You begin to speak with more authority. You begin to move with more purpose. That is the seed of manifestation. The mistake many people make is assuming that nothing is happening simply because nothing is visible yet. But the deepest changes grow underground first. A seed breaks open in the dark long before it ever breaks through the soil. A foundation is poured before a building rises. A root system grows before a tree bears fruit. In the same way, your inner world must be strengthened before your outer world reflects anything new. That hidden growth is not wasted, it is essential. Manifestation begins inside because the heart is the engine of your life. Your actions flow from your beliefs. Your habits flow from your thoughts. Your decisions flow from your expectations. Your future flows from the images you carry within. So if you want outward change, You must start by reshaping the inward picture. Speak truth until your mind believes it. Meditate on truth until your emotions absorb it. Stand on truth until your spirit becomes unshakable. What you build inside becomes the foundation for what you live outside. When you nurture the inner world, when you choose truth over fear, hope over doubt, identity over insecurity, you are planting seeds that will eventually break the surface. And when they do, people may call it sudden, but you will know it was not sudden at all. It was growing in silence while you stayed faithful. It was developing inside you long before anyone could see it. Change doesn't start when life looks different. It starts when you look different on the inside. Your inner transformation is the birthplace of your outer manifestation. When the inside shifts, the outside has no choice but to follow.